Here's a brain teaser for you. What do these three things have in common? Theistic Satanists, the Army's Psychological Warfare Division, and the people running one of the worst and widest-ranging child exploitation rings in the history of the country. They're all Tool fans? Nope. This guy, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino. Alright, so this is a topic that I've had requested a couple times, and I've been struggling to figure out how to distill the topic into a cohesive video. So delving into this topic is sort of like getting asked for a plot summary of Metal Gear Solid, where it's just like, shit, okay, how much time do you have? So instead, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this into a multi-part series, covering all the connections and sub-connections through a video structure of assembling one of those Pepe Sylvia, red string cork boards. So to begin, let's go back to the 1960s. Let's start with the man himself, Michael Aquino, a highly decorated military officer, a satanic priest. He confirms this, and alleged prolific child abuser. He does not confirm this. More on those second 2 points later. During the Vietnam War, he spent multiple years involved in clandestine operations, highly likely and generally assumed to be as a part of the Phoenix program, although this has never officially been confirmed on the record. The Phoenix program, largely considered both a precursor to modern psychological warfare as well as a dick move. The Phoenix program was an operation that primarily involved torturing people, for information, to send a message, to scare people, keep them in a state of distrust and paranoia. Additionally, it also developed psychological warfare techniques to demoralize the Viet Cong, including the infamous spooky ghost voices telling you to surrender in Vietnamese tape that we played loud as shit from airplanes flying around at night. The methods developed here will later be rolled into Operation Gladio, a fascist-aligned strategy of tension deployed in communist or former communist countries. This will come into play later on. Foreshadowing. It's kind of a Chekhov's gun thing. Aquino's experience in Vietnam more or less directly led to his later career as basically the father of modern-day psychological warfare, as described in his paper From PSYOP to Mind War, which describes the methods and goals of psychological warfare. That's right, this guy is the person who came up with the term PSYOP. So everything thus far is probably reasonably expected information. Let's move on to the more unexpected side of things. Michael Aquino was a Satanist, being a high-ranking member of Anton LaVey's Church of Satan. Now, to be clear, there is nothing inherently evil or wrong about being a member of the Church of Satan these days, given that it's basically goth atheism. However, in Aquino's case, he was not on board with the comparative lack of literally worshipping Satan, and split off into a theistic satanic sect, the Temple of Set. He formed the Temple of Set with his wife Lilith, who ran a New York coven called the Lilith Grotto. This is her. Side note, pictures of these two together are invariably hilarious. There's a lot of bad things to be said about Michael Aquino, but credit where credit is due, I can't fault him for having a thing for the goths. Now, on to the third major aspect of him. Wait. So you're telling me that in addition to being the father of modern psychological warfare and coining the term PSYOP, this dork is also the LeBron James of child abuse? Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. But look at him. Those don't look like the eyebrows of a satanic pedophile. Alright, now time to get into the much darker side of the video. There is extensive documentation of the details of the abuses alleged, most of which I will be omitting unless the details are specifically relevant. This is for a number of reasons, not the least of which being that it's gross and weird to luridly describe the details of horrific crimes against children. I can assure you, however, that they were not fans. The Presidio Scandal. In 1986, allegations of sexual abuse were raised against teacher and Baptist minister Reverend Gary Hambright, who taught at the Presidio Child Development Center at the Presidio base in San Francisco. Upon finding significant physical and psychological evidence of abuse amongst children in Hambright's class, including at least 5 of whom had contracted chlamydia, the children were later questioned and mentioned being taken out of the classroom into a private residence, where they were also abused by 2 other adults who they called Mikey and Shamby. The kids had a consistent description of the house as having a dark interior filled with all kinds of satanic stuff, as well as a soundproof room with soft material lining the walls. Additionally, when driven around the area, multiple victims separately identified the same house as the one that they'd been taken to. Now, who are the owners of the house? Now, this might surprise you, but Michael and Lilith Aquino. Shocking. Now, where did Aquino work at the time? The Presidio base. The cops got a search warrant, searched the house, and dark interior, lots of satanic crap, padded room, tons of video cameras and equipment, all checks out. So, this seems pretty bad, right? Presumably he gets prosecuted. He does not get prosecuted. A fact that Aquino maintains proves his innocence. There were several setbacks to the investigation, including a pair of fires about 3 weeks apart that destroyed Hambright's classroom in the development center, as well as one in the administrative building next door where Aquino worked, in which a number of unnamed records and documents were destroyed. Now, despite the Army's insistence that these two fires were accidents and unrelated, the ATF was adamant in their reports that the fires were arson. Yep, that's right, I said the ATF. Do you have any idea how evil and or willfully bureaucratic you have to be to make the ATF look like the reasonable ones? Aquino claims the positive chlamydia tests are inconclusive because they were only preliminary positives and were somehow misplaced and then disappeared before a full lab result sheet could be recorded. Alright, so why was he not prosecuted? To answer that, we have to do a quick run-through of a different kitty-diddling scandal that he was implicated in. The Franklin scandal from the last episode. Alright, here's the spark notes. In Paul Bonacci's testimony against Lawrence King, he identified Aquino only as the colonel, but was able to pick him out of a lineup and described him as the ringleader as well as King's direct superior. Lawrence King's photographer, Rusty Nelson, identified Aquino as the man he had seen King hand over suitcases full of cash to. King had reportedly told Nelson that Aquino had been involved in the Iran-Contra drugs for guns affair. Now, Gary Webb, of Being Murdered for pointing out the CIA's connection to the crack epidemic fame, and strangely, also a reporter for the same newspaper that initially broke the Presidio story, the San Jose Mercury News, brought up this guy, Joe Ruscianello, as an involved party in the Iran-Contra thing. The same scandal that multiple other witnesses implicated Aquino as being involved in as well. So, how does this all relate? Well, the question that we were asking was, why was Aquino not prosecuted for the Presidio thing? Well, let's look at who the San Francisco DA was at the time. This guy, Joe Ruscianello. He was the U.S. Attorney for the Northern California District, and he was the person who declined to prosecute Aquino on federal charges. So, that might have something to do with it. Alrighty, this video has gotten long and convoluted enough as it is, so this feels like a good stopping point. If you guys like the stuff I've been covering recently, let me know. I'm happy to keep doing it. Anyways, like and subscribe.